Hey, welcome to this edition of Thrive. As always, I hope it finds you well and know that I really do value this opportunity to hopefully encourage and maybe inspire you as you seek to become all that you can be. You know, one of the things that many of us use in our routines in the office is a to-do list, whether it be a written out list on a piece of paper or an electronic version that sits on our devices. We have this list of tasks, all prioritized that we want to achieve on any given day. So that at the end of the day, we can cross off everything and we have a sense of achievement. And of course, what doesn't get done gets carried over to the next day. And then the next day, it all begins again. And I say that a little bit flippantly because I understand how useful to-do lists are, and I use one myself. There's no question about that, and so I'm not dismissing them. But over the time, I've come to observe that, I know why people started them, and I understand the motivation behind them because we want to be productive, we want to have a sense of achievement at the end of any given day, and we want to stay focused and be good stewards of our time and all those things. But what I've noticed is that over time, instead of being a tool that serves us, that helps us be productive and be all those things that I mentioned, we end up serving it. That becomes like our taskmaster, and our day is shaped and almost controlled by those to-do lists if we're not careful. And the reason I say that is that, motivation is what gets us started, but habits are what keep us going. And sometimes I think that we need to step back and look at some of our daily and weekly and monthly habits and ask ourselves the hard question: are these habits helping us become all that we want to be? Are they achieving what they're supposed to help us achieve or not? And I say that because, like me, you've probably observed this truism that just changing one habit in life can have a huge positive impact. Just through changing one thing, it can have a big impact in our life. And that's why I advocate regularly just standing back and just looking at some of the habits, some of the routines, and asking yourself, are these things continuing to serve me? Are they continuing to be useful? Do I need to continue with them, or do I need to stop them, or do I need to adapt them? And one of the things that I did was that I looked at my to-do list as I began to realize that at times it was no longer serving as a tool of productivity, but had become a taskmaster that I felt I had to serve. Was that I started another list. I've got on my desk, I have my to-do list, and beside it I have a to-stop list. I realized that there are things that I needed to stop doing in order to make changes that would help me become everything that God had called me and wanted me to become. And so I began this list and this process. And if that resonates with you, I want to encourage you to think about maybe it's time for you to have a to-stop list, and you begin to put on it things that you need to stop doing in order to make some changes so that you end up going forward instead of going through the motions. You end up stepping more fully into the life that God intends for you. Here's what I have on my list currently. There are 3 things on my list currently. The first one is to stop waiting for the right time. To stop waiting for the right time. You see, so many of us spend our time waiting for the right time. We say it's not the right time to do this now. It's not the right time to take this action. It's not the right time to step out of the boat. It's not the right time to follow that dream. It's not the right time to pull back from work a little and devote more time to those things that give me a sense of personal fulfillment. And on it goes. And we have all these excuses. On my to-stop list, under that, it's stop waiting for the right time, I have the Bible verse, Ecclesiastes 11 verse 4, which basically says that those who wait for perfect weather will never sow, and those who look at every cloud will never harvest crops. In other words, what Solomon's saying is if you are always waiting for the conditions to be right before you do something, you're never going to do anything. If you're waiting for the conditions to be right before you start something new, before you make a change to your life, before you drop a habit in order to make a change to become a better version of you, in order to step out or to step up, If you're waiting for the time to be right to do these things, what you're going to do is you're going to find life passes you by because the conditions are never right. The stars never line up. You've got to make the time. You've got to step out and just back yourself, so to speak, and recognize if I don't take responsibility for making this change, no one else will. If I don't take responsibility for building a new habit, if I don't take responsibility for following my dream, if I don't take responsibility for making more time for God, if I don't take responsibility for looking at what does God want for my life and pursuing that, no one else will. It's all on us. And if we don't start, then life is going to pass us by. And for me, I can't think of anything worse than getting to the end of my life and being filled with regrets about possibilities and opportunities that I never took because I was too timid. So I want to encourage you to maybe you need to put that on your list as well. Another thing on my list is to stop trying to be someone I'm not. And the reason I put that is that if I don't stop trying to be someone I'm not, I'm going to end up confused about who I really am. You see, the reason I have it on my to stop list is that, like many of us, we feel the pressure to conform to a perceived expectation of what others imagine us to be, or we feel that we have to live up to someone else's ideals or someone else's standard or expectations of what we should be like, of how we should be, and on it goes. And I'm not saying that their expectations, their values, or anything like that are necessarily wrong. But when we try and live up to their version of who we should be, we end up becoming a little bit confused. It creates conflict, it creates turmoil, because we're never really sure of, am I doing this for them or am I doing it for me? Am I doing it to please them, or am I doing it because this is the right thing to do? This is the God thing to do. This is actually what I want to do. And that in itself leads to a sense of discontentedness and ultimately unhappiness, because we feel like we're living to please everybody else except ourselves. And in saying that, I'm aware that some of you may think, isn't that being selfish? And the answer in this context is, I don't think so. You see, you're created as a one-off, unique creation by the Most High. There is no one else like you. And so if you don't attend to yourself, no one else will. And if you don't attend to yourself and discover who you are and live out of that, then you're not being a good steward of what God has created. You're not really appreciating the uniqueness of who you are and how He's created you. And so that's why I have on my to stop list, stop trying to be who I'm not. It's a continual reminder to press into God, to study the scriptures, to pray, to listen, to attend to myself, and to discover who God has wired me and called me to be, and then to become the best version of that I can. Romans 12 verses 1 to 2, there's a version of that in a Phillips translation that says, don't let the world squeeze you into its mold. And I think that's what happens for many of us when we try and live up to other people's expectations. We're letting other people squeeze us into their molds. Maybe you're in that place. Maybe now's the time to break out. Maybe you need to stop trying to live up to someone else's expectations and start saying, you know what, I'm going to break out of this mold and I'm going to flow over into God's mold for my life. I'm going to stop trying to be who everyone wants me to be or expects me to be, and I'm going to start being who God wants me to be. And I'm going to let that shape me and determine who I am and how I live. And trust me, when you do that, then you're going to discover what it means to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that leads me to the third thing that's on my list, is to stop running from myself. By that I mean stop running from my problems, to stop running from all of the things that I don't like about myself, all of the conflict, all of the struggles, the internal, the external. Stop trying to avoid dealing with things. You see, I think it's human nature for us to suppress, to deny, just to sort of try and overlook internal conflicts, problems, all of those sorts of things, because we don't like dealing with them. And yet those things end up being toxic in our lives, and they rob us of the joy of our salvation, and they dull our dreams, and they cloud our vision, because they weigh heavy upon us. And so I've learnt that the only way I can move forward is to deal with these things. I can't run from them. I have to deal with them, because if I don't, what happens is every time I run, they keep up with me. But when I deal with them, I leave them in yesterday so that I can go forward into tomorrow. And so maybe you're in that place too. And again, it's a lifelong thing. It's an ongoing thing. And that's why on my to stop list, I've only got these 3 tasks at the moment. They've been there for a while. Some of them will change. Some of them will stay perhaps. Others will come on. But as I sought to do that, what I've found is that my to-do list has become a tool again. It's serving me rather than me serving it. It's not controlling my day. It's shaping my day, and it's helping me find time and make time for what's important in life, not just the tasks that are a priority. So that's my encouragement. I hope it's helpful. Be interested to hear how life is for you. What would you put on your to stop list? What are the things that you want to change to bring about lasting change in your life? Until next time, God bless you. Look forward to catching you